was my first birthday, and like every other child, I just had the normal. I don't think they really noticed that anything was wrong with me until my first birthday, and I fell ill on that day, and crying and fever and all of that. Well, I was taken to the hospital, and for some reason the doctor asked that a genotype test be run, and that was how my parents found out that I had sickle cell. And I think that cast some light on the fact that before me, my parents had lost about 3 kids. That some of them were a little bit older than one, some of them were a little bit less than one, but I mean they were grown enough to have taken pictures of them, and all of those pictures were still in the house for quite a while. But that doctor on that day kind of opened everyone's eyes as to what was going on, and that was how we found out that I was SS, genotype SS. It kind of like affected me growing up in the sense that my parents will always want to put that boundary around how much I could do and how well I could play and all of that. But it was smooth sailing all through basically for me, because I don't remember missing school very much. I guess because the care was really standard since they found out very early, and I was on my routine medications. I couldn't miss them because my mom only would insist. My dad would ask. The helps were trained to make sure that I took my medications. But as I grew, it began to get difficult for me to take my medications, because I felt like, why do I have to be on medications? I want to be like everyone else. You're leaving home in the morning and it's hot, but my mom would insist that I take my sweater to school. And it was always hammered into my ears, oh, you need to drink water, you need to take your med, you need to drink water, you don't do this, don't do that, don't play too much. Okay, so I realized that there were lots of things I couldn't do, but of course I was allowed to read, and so I really focused on that. From religion to science to geography to physics, everything and anything I could lay my hands upon, I read. I was able to pull my weight academically. Until I got admission, and then I got to the university, and it seemed like all hell broke loose. I was falling ill every time. I was missing tests, I was missing exams, I was missing practicals. There was a time that I was reading for exams, I fell ill, and then I missed 3 exams. There was a time that I had to a friend of mine had to drive me from the health center to write an exam, and I had a line set in my hand. I just wore a long sleeve and covered it up, tried to do the exam, but man, I was like maybe 2 questions in and I couldn't cope anymore. I just submitted, and I told the lecturer that I had to leave, and she was like, you can't be done, like how you finished now? And I just showed her the line, and she was like, oh, you can go. There was another instance where I just realized that I wasn't feeling well and I couldn't do anything, and then I called a friend of mine, and then she was like, okay, let's go to the health center. And then we went to the health center, and they put me on admission, and they kept checking my PCV, which is like blood count in layman terms, and they realized that it just kept dropping. The PCV just kept going through the floor. It kept going through the floor. No matter what they did, the next time they checked it, it was going down. And the doctors were freaking out at the health center, and they were like, see guy, you have to go to the teaching hospital. And this was towards my exams. Like, you have to go to the teaching hospital. And I said no, I wasn't going to go. But my doctors were worried, and my friends were worried, and they were like, see, we have to tell your parents. And my mom later told me that she and my sister were just leaving the house to go to the shop when they got the call about what happened. So this thing affects everyone. At the end of the day, my mom couldn't go do her business, and she was about to spend money to come to Ife, to come to my school. She was about to spend money for health bills and all of that. My dad too had to come into town to come to my school and sit, but I just woke up and found him by my bedside. It disrupts everyone's life, and I had to be taken to the teaching hospital. I was there for 10 days on admission, and they had to put me they had to give me blood transfusion, put me on some antibiotics, a lot of fluid and all of that. I was having hallucinations, all sorts of things. I couldn't tell which ones were real and which ones were dreams and which ones were hallucinations. I could have a conversation with my mom, and I don't remember again if it was a real conversation or it was an imagined conversation. Everything just became a blur. What was real, daytime and nighttime, everything was a blur. I'd wake up at some point in time and realize it's night. I don't know if it's real night or it's actually a hallucination. So everything was a mess. It was maybe by 8th day that I could start to figure out what was happening. I was able to get up to go to the bedroom myself and come back and stuff like that. By the 10th day I was discharged. My mom came down from Lagos with only what she was wearing and her ATM cards. She had nothing. At some point they had to put other people by me and take my mom to a home, a real home, to go and rest, because she's been sleeping on the floor in the ward and all of that. So it's something that when it happens, it blows out and it affects everyone around you.
Oh, can you just say how you feel your parents feel when you're going through all this things?
Okay, now the incident where I was on admission at the teaching hospital, Obafemi Awolowo University Teaching Hospital, I just woke up and found my dad by my side. My dad is a busy man. Like I grew up learning that he was always busy, and to find him there, I just felt sad for everybody. I felt sad for him. I felt sad for myself, for the fact that he had to see me like this, and the look on his face. And I know that these people would rather be anywhere else doing something else. Just today, I remembered an instance where I was sitting with my dad outside a doctor's office waiting for our appointment, and we've been there all day from morning, and this was like 2 o'clock, and we've been waiting for our turn. And he just looked at me and he said, "Greg, I don't care what sort of wife you marry, where she's from, what she looks like, or anything like that. The only thing I'm interested in is that she's AA." He had had enough of the SS thing. Like, I remember clearly what we were trying to get that day was a leave of absence to send to my school so that I didn't have to resume, and then instead I'll go into the ward and get treatment. And he'd had enough. He'd had enough of the trips back and forth between my school and the hospital and Lagos, and one thing and buy this and get that and all of that. And he just looked at me and he said that. And my mom was always, perplexed, and she'd feel so terrible about the whole situation. She'd ask me, okay, could we go to the hospital? That's the our own way of saying, oh, how bad is the pain? But the moment I say yes, then she knows that all hell is let loose, and then she starts calling everybody like, okay, we need to get him to hospital and all of that. So it was terrible. And I remember a situation where, again, empathy, even in the healthcare sector, is lacking for people with sickle cell. Because I remember going in crisis to a hospital, and they told me the ward was upstairs. My legs were on fire. There is no way I could climb. My mom had to carry me on her back up. And at this point, I already told her than my mom. I'm sure my parents were embarrassed every time they had to tell their colleagues that, oh, I'm not coming into work today. I need to take my child to the hospital. Like, are you the only one with a child? But of course, it was beginning to affect me. My GP was beginning to sink, and it was beginning to seriously tank. And it got to a stage where I'd get to class, and my classmates would be like, are you still in this department? Because I was never seen anymore. Over the years while I was there, it so happened that I had the same medical director for the period, and so I became a known face to her. She knew my case, she knew everything about me personally, and every time I'd come and she'd have to sign for me the reason why I had missed an exam, or I'd missed a test, or I'd missed some classes or some practicals, or why my report was not due or something like that. And one day I was walking out of our office after getting another sick of report, and I was just walking down the corridor. I found myself crying, and I was feeling very terrible. And I've been doing that for a while. I just feel bad. Like, I know this thing is inside of me. I know I can be better. I know how well I can do. I knew I could do better than what I was doing at that point. And the fact that I was in that dilemma of, if I push too hard, I'll end up not getting it done. If I don't push hard enough, I might end up failing. It was really difficult for me. So I become very emotional, and I'd cry and feel sorry for myself and feel sad and all of that. And then that day I was just walking out of our office with another report yet to go. And people are very funny. I think it's because a lot of people do not understand what sickle cell is. You go to a lecturer with a signed report from a medical professional saying that you are, and they do not even give it any sort of they don't give it any weight. They act like, oh, you give the same excuses all the time, or you just don't want to get it done. And so sometimes I don't even bother. I just let it go. Oh, I missed the test, 30 marks or 20 marks, whatever it is. I just know that I have the rest to fight for. It became very embarrassing to always have to go and say, oh, sir, this is why, and stuff like that. It was getting to me. But on this day, I just thought, okay, I wasn't going to cry anymore. Whatever happens, even if it's going to be dead, it's fine, but I am not going to cry, because each of these tears are not going to change anything. One day they told me I was done. no more tests, no more exams, no more courses. I was free to go. Even my dad was like, no one thought you were going to make it because it was so bad. Every time you were ill. And finally, I graduated from school. There were times that the pain was so bad and I just felt, oh, maybe I should just hold my breath and die. And I'll try to hold my breath, but I couldn't. And then when I get so quiet like that, my mom get worried and she starts shaking me like, Greg, are you there, and stuff like that. So I'm like, can you just let me die or something? But again, I look at her like, if I die, how would she feel? Going to South Africa for work, it was a work conference. It was the longest flight I'd ever had before that point, and it was the coldest place I've ever been to before that point. And I didn't know that if you're going to travel by air as a sickle cell patient, because of the altitude, you had to start hydrating yourself long before the trip itself. I didn't do that, and then when I arrived, it was crazy cold. So I was like, okay, I'm in trouble. I think I attended the conference the first day, the second day, the third day I got to my hotel room and I started feeling funny. I had to get my blanket and go lie down next to the heater because I was now cold. I was beginning to feel the pains in my bones, and then I fell sick. They had to get me to a hospital. I got admitted, and then I had a white doctor attending to me, and then she asked me what the problem was. I told her I was sick, I had SCD and this was a crisis, and she's never heard about that before. She had no idea what I was talking about. At that point I knew I was in trouble, and then I told her, I said, you know what, how about I call my doctor in Lagos so that you speak with him, and then you guys work it out from there. So what I did was call a friend of mine who's a pharmacist. He spoke with her, and then on the phone explained to her, oh, okay, this is what's happening, this is why he's feeling that way, you need to hydrate him, you need to give him pain meds, you need to give him this and that. And then she was like, okay, follow the instructions, and then I got better and I came back to Nigeria. But it was a critical lesson for me, and I began to understand that knowledge, information was what was going to get me out of jams like that and prevent such things happening in future. So I started to understand that the moment I feel something coming on like a crisis, I start to treat it with painkillers straight away, and then I start to get my hydration up. So what I'll do is I get a bag of water next to me. I try to push to finish the whole bag, which will be about over 10 liters in a day, and it works. There's almost no sickle cell medication I've not tried. There's almost nothing. Oh, this one, I tell my mom will hear about it, they go and buy. My dad will hear about that one, they go and buy. Try. It's not working, and these things are expensive. In sickle cell, there's a lot of opportunity costs. There are things you want to do that you can't do because you are ill, and there are certain boundaries you cannot push. Things that you rather do with your money, but you have to spend so much taking care of your health. And I just don't understand why, as a people, we just want to ignore the fact that sickle cell is a thing. People get married or get romantically involved without knowing that they both are carriers, and then they have a sickle cell child, and then the child gets falling sick and they're like, it's not possible. The doctor says go and do a genotype test, and I'm like, no. I've heard people say, my brother is A, my sister is A, and me too, I'm A. That's not a test. Or stuff like, no, there's no sickle cell in our family. It's not possible. My child cannot be sickle cell. There's no sickle. That's rubbish. Get tested, a standardized test, and make sure that you both are not carriers. Yes, if you still want to go ahead, but at least go ahead with the education and counseling of what you are getting into. Because you can't begin to imagine how much pain people are going through. People that have lost siblings, lost children, lost loved ones, lost their spouses from sickle cell. We lost someone because he went to the hospital and there were no beds. I don't blame the hospital for that. Their hands are full. Health workers are overworked, they're overstretched. The facilities are stretched to the brink and breaking point, because when there are no beds, there's nothing they're going to do. If we had dedicated sickle cell facilities that, okay, these are hospitals that are for sickle cell patients, and the doctors here are going to focus on understanding sickle cell and treating sickle cell and trying to find a way forward to manage them an increased lifespan and things like that. That would be nice, because now sickle cell patients can go there and not have this feeling of, I don't want to go to the hospital because the doctor I saw last time is not the one I'll see now, and then they'll treat me in a certain way. They will tell me I'm exaggerating my pain, I'm lying about it, it's not that bad, other people are here, you're not the only one in the world who stop shouting and stuff like that. If they had a dedicated place to go, patients are happy to come because they know that everybody they meet there understands their situation. You need to understand what your strengths are and push that agenda. That is the story you should sell about yourself, and not the other things that you don't do well. And the way the world is set up, there is room for everyone in every sphere. Just find what it is that works for you and then push it to the max. That's what I've set up for myself. That's how I've lived my life. That's how I've tried to get myself to where I am today. And basically, I just trust the fact that there is a plan. I don't believe in coincidences.